Yeah, I mean, as an SEO agency, we use AI in a variety of different ways, especially like, creating content was the first thing. And so we definitely use AI to create content. We've used a variety of different practices and tools and stuff like that. And it's constantly changing. It probably changes our SOP for creating content probably changes every few months just because we find some other tool or find some other process or find some other way to keep our quality of our content at a threshold that we want it, which is super high. So that's the biggest thing. We also use AI to help audit and analyze websites specifically for SEO. What we haven't done is we don't use AI for communication just because that's a core value yet. It's just the communication is too obvious that it's AI generated. And what we want people to understand is like you could get SEO at a much cheaper rate of that's completely from AI. But if you want really good performance in something that's going to deliver real results, especially results for your business, then that's where you come to us, right?
Welcome back to Founders in the Field, the show where I go behind the scenes with agency leaders, consultants, and creative founders to show you how they're building, scaling, and staying sane in the trenches. I'm your host, Stefan Bradley, and today's guest is Jesse McFarland, founder of Spearpoint Marketing. How are you doing, Jesse?
Very good. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Let's dive straight in. For people who don't know your story, take us right back to the start of your journey. What made you start your own business? And give us an overview of what your role looks like today at Spearpoint Marketing.
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of start back. I mean, this marketing wasn't my very first career. My first career was in fitness, and I was like a personal trainer. I ran a gym. I was a strength conditioning coach, and at some point, I just got burned out from doing that. This was back in like 2007 or 8, where I discovered like marketing. Well, I didn't discover it. I just this it was relatively digital marketing was relatively new at that point, and I just saw a lot of opportunity, a lot of different things that interest me. I started my own like online personal training business, and I learned SEO. I was doing social media. I was generating content. I was creating videos, and I just like kind of fell in love with it. I decided to make a career change, and I kind of started over and uh, got hired at a marketing agency where I found SEO, and then that's when my marketing journey just kind of really took off from there. I've worked at a variety of different places, small agencies, big agencies. I worked in client-sized businesses. I worked in media, and I got to a point where I always thought I always loved being the idea of being a business owner, but I was too scared to actually go all in on it. And so I was really focused on that going up the corporate ladder in these bigger companies where, I was making really good money and uh, leading a big team and stuff like that. And I always was driven to do that because I thought that's what being successful is about, but I was never really happy doing that. And I finally got to a point where I got the job title I always wanted, which was Chief Marketing Officer. And I got that position and I got it for about 4 weeks and then I quit.
Wow.
I was like, this is it. This is it. I hit the top and this freaking sucks. And so I quit and I luckily had support from my wife, which was super helpful, which wasn't easy, but support from my wife. And then I was also in a position in my life where I can afford to take a break and recalibrate what I wanted to do in life. And I decided that, hey, I'm going to start my own business. And this was like 3 years ago, I guess. I'm trying to remember when I started, like 2023, I think in January 2023 is when I started um, Spearpoint Marketing. And I already had like a large network because I've been a marketer for a long time, and I quickly was able to have a profitable business, which was very unusual, right? I didn't have to start from scratch necessarily I already had people that would wanted to work with me, which was awesome. And so from there, it just kind of, you know, took off. So yeah, that's kind of my journey. Um, we can kind of go on to that too, where it just, I had the other challenges of running an agency, but I'll let you follow up with the next question.
So, going from fitness into marketing, first of all, that's a big change. Usually like some people like get bored of or like get burnt out with, the corporate world and then go into something different, but you was actually sort of the other way
Yeah,
around. Um,
exactly.
Going from something very physical to then, something a bit more, using your brain and having to, work in agencies and marketing, which is, completely different to obviously physical work. Then, going from different agencies to then doing the corporate thing, we're climbing the ladder to actually get to the point, that you always thought you wanted to then realizing that is not what you wanted. But I feel like some people have that urge to the entrepreneurial urge to, want to start a business and, they might not have it enough to actually go all in yet. But then I suppose once you get to the point of what you trying to aspire to in the corporate ladder and it doesn't hit, I can imagine that was not a great feeling either. Do you know what I mean? To be like, to actually, that's what you've been aspiring to actually get there. It's almost like maybe get your dream, whatever you've dreamed of to get there. And then for it to not hit how you thought must have been like a massive impact on you.
Yeah, it was quite the impact, right? And so it was also like a moment of clarity too for me. Because I always knew like in my heart that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I was stuck in this game of like climbing that corporate ladder to get that next salary bump or um, y- you know, earn that title. Like and I think a lot of people that are in the corporate world can understand that. You just get locked in on that, and then you just keep, especially if you're motivated, which I've always been a motivated person, to be successful. Um, that was I just discovered one day when I was always chasing the carrot, and when I got that carrot, I was like, I've been chasing the wrong carrot. You know, this carrot tastes like crap. So I wanted to then it was just, for me, it was just clarity. Like, okay, I know what I want to do now. I got to this point. This is not what I expected it to be. Let's pivot into doing just something I've always wanted to do, like from inside. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was really, if I could summarize it, it was just a moment of clarity.
No, and you know, you have to go, going through agencies, working your way up the corporate ladder, also building the network has gave you skills and a network to be able to go straight into the business. Without them times, you would never have built the same skill set or especially like the network, as you obviously mentioned, when you went into your own business, you already had the network, you already had maybe not clients lined up, but people that you knew you could help, with marketing. So I feel like it's definitely not a waste of time. It was definitely preparing you for the next stage.
That's a big thing right there too, and that's probably what helped me the most is I've generated an outstanding network along the way. Confidence for me, probably the biggest thing there, where in my younger time, like if I had to talk to a CMO of a big business, I'd be totally like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? I probably would I'd be crapping my pants. But now, like I can do that. I can talk to anybody, right? So like it's just the level of confidence has really, from going up the corporate ladder, has really helped me be a successful running a successful agency, and probably at a quicker path, especially if I were to try this path when I was younger, if that makes sense.
Definitely. So, what does your role actually look like today at Spearpoint Marketing?
Yeah, so I have a team now. So it started with just me, and was more like consulting, and then I built packages for SEO. SEO has always been my primary, I would say probably the channel I enjoy the most. Um, it's not the only good digital marketing channel, but it's the one I've always enjoyed the most. And so I run an SEO agency. I have a small team member, and we're scaling really, really fast, especially within the last 6 months or so. And right now I'm in my day to day is kind of all over the place. It's growing the business, it's sales, it's talking to customers. Like I spoke to two customers already this morning. And then it's coming up with strategy and stuff like that. So I'm kind of in a position where I think a lot of, I don't know, not just agency owners, but any entrepreneur is in when they hit that, like when they kind of struck gold a little bit, when it's the business is taking off, and you're doing too many different things. And that's where I am right now. Fortunately, I'm about to hire somebody to take off a lot of those responsibilities, someone that's going to run day-to-day operations. But yeah, I'm doing too many different things, and my goal is to focus on just um, mostly focus on just growing the business. So that's basically where I'm at.
No, and a lot of founders go from, like you said, started off with just you and you're in charge of everything, delivery, actually delivering for clients, client relationships, obviously still, but everything. And then you hire people to actually take over sort of the delivery, but then that creates a new set of new roles for you, I suppose. And that's sort of like where you're at now, isn't it? You work, all of that's kind of like working it, on the business still. You're not, in the weeds, sort of like delivering and doing that type of stuff. But then it comes to that next stage, which I'm, from what you said, is where you're at now, where you hire and delegate a little bit more, and then just sort of specialize in just growing the business.
Yeah, yeah. I always envisioned hiring a team was going to take more stuff off my plate. And all that really did was like it just added different things to my plate. And I'm just as scattered as I was before when it was just me. So now I need somebody that's definitely a more seasoned type of person to come in and be more of like, a real manager type of role that can handle the day-to-day stuff, which that allows me to do what I'm best at, and that's really, growing the business, being the face of the business, doing sales and stuff like that, where and that's the most important thing as far as scaling the business, I feel, and that's where I need to be.
So, Jesse, walk me through how your team currently delivers for clients like day to day.
Yeah, we have. It's kind of hard to say. So like we have like a roadmap for each one of our packages, and then each one of our clients has a similar roadmap, and with some items that might be um uh you know specific to them and their industry. But we plan it all out through, pretty much through 6 months, but we try to be agile every month, depending on, if there's a change in performance or something like that, we'll recategorize things. But we use a project management system. We prioritize our tasks at the beginning of the month towards the end. And yeah, so every day it could be anything from creating content to making changes on the website to um, um, analyzing data or analyzing competitors to outreaching to our partners and stuff like that. So every single day it could be different for my team. I have some of my team members do more like website development stuff, and the other team members do more content generation stuff, but everyone does a lot of different things. And it's kind of helpful in it's always the way I've done worked in agencies where I didn't have just like a graphic designer and that's all he or she did. It was just graphic design. I always like to have people with multiple skill sets. That way they can kind of understand a bigger picture than just the one single thing they're focused on. That's There's other ways to do it, of course, but that's what's always worked for me in every business that I've either managed and now my business that I own.
You mentioned obviously scaling and and focusing on sales and things like that. So in like the day operations, what is limiting you from taking on more clients? As in, like, if you took on more clients, what would be the first thing that you'd need to do to like handle them? For example, if you took on 10 new ones.
Yeah, so I think the biggest part for me is like the number one core value is like basically communication. And that's really what I feel like sets us apart from our competitors is just about all of our customers has come from another SEO agency. And the number one thing I always hear is like, I never knew what was going on, or they would send me a report and I didn't know what it meant. And so there maybe the agency was performing well, but the client just never understood what the heck was going on. So communication is again our number one core value, and I'm pretty much the person that does all that. And that is the scariest thing. If I were to gain 10 new clients today, now I'm like, okay, how am I gonna keep that level of communication, that customer satisfaction when I take on new customers? It's not possible for just me. And so that is the number one thing I would say that I'm dealing with right now, which I'm trying to solve with especially with this next person I'm hiring. So yeah, that's what would keep me from scaling.
Well, first of all, over communication is the best thing, isn't it, for clients? So
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
you over communicate as much as you can, sort of thing, because it keeps them feeling in the loop and feel valued at the same time. When you
Correct.
do communicate with them, is that on the form of calls or is that emails or a mixture of the two?
It's a mixture of a two, emails and calls, and then we do our own like check-ins too. Like we don't just want a customer to reaching us to want to talk to us. We want to beat them to it, right? So if they have a question and we want to anticipate that they have a question and kind of beat them to it before asking. And so that's what we take a lot of pride in. And it's definitely a combination of calls and emails. Email is pretty much at any point. Calls, we have to put some sort of limit on it, right? So we can't have a call with a client every single day. That's just not feasible. But we have, depending on what package they have, it's one or two or something like that per calls per month. And yeah, so that's how we do that.
Yeah, having that's the calls, having them scheduled in, one allows you to plan for them also. But emails can be,
Correct.
and you can obviously emails can be much more frequently just checking in with them, to actually ask them questions as well.
Right. Exactly.
So that leads me on quite nicely to my next question, which is where, if anywhere, have you tried using or implemented AI into the business?
Yeah, I mean, as an SEO agency, we use AI in a variety of different ways. Especially like, creating content was the first thing. And so we definitely use AI to create content. We've used a variety of different practices and tools and stuff like that. And it's constantly changing. It probably changes our SOP for creating content, probably changes every few months. Just because we find some other tool or find some other process or find some other way to keep our quality of our content at a threshold that we want it, which is super high. So that's the biggest thing. We also use AI to help audit and analyze websites specifically for SEO. What we haven't done is we don't use AI for communication just because that's a core value yet. It's just the communication is too obvious that it's AI generated. And what we want people to understand is like, yeah, you could get SEO at a much cheaper rate of that's completely from AI. But if you want really good performance and something that's actually that's going to deliver real results, especially results for your business, then that's where you come to us, right? And so we try not to use AI tools that take away our strategic thinking and our practices and stuff like that. And so we want to keep that human as long as possible. So a lot of that kind of stuff is on us, and we'll adapt to different things that might help us with, maybe smaller tasks that can be AI generated by AI, but we haven't gotten to that point yet.
I think definitely tasks, audits, proposals, reporting, them type of things are
Hmm.
the first things that a business should be automating, and
Yeah,
keeping humans good at what humans are good at, which is like, communication, strategy, critical thinking, this types of things, and by automating the other tasks allows you more time to actually be able to focus on what really moves the needle. In your case, actually, speaking to the customers, over communicating with them, and thinking of the actual strategy. With the AI that you're using, is it like in the form of like a system, like an automation that's actually built so it actually happens on the like in the background, or is it more like using it as and when? So for content, actually, every time like going in and using an AI model, whichever one you use, Claude or ChatGPT, Gemini, and then to create the content like that, sort of like ad hoc, or is it like a system that maybe you just type in some details and it just runs through?
Yeah, it's more ad hoc in a way. We're starting to explore some systems that could be more automated or auto-generated, and then we get it, and then we can review it without providing all the prompts and telling AI what we want. We've explored that. We just haven't got to the point where what it doesn't meet our threshold, our quality threshold when we do it that way yet. It would definitely be helpful when we do, because then it just takes some research and some other stuff that we do on a monthly basis, kind of something we just need to do maybe once or every few months, which would be totally helpful. But again, it just kind of comes with the quality that meets our expectations, and we just haven't found that process yet, if that makes sense.
Definitely, and it'll be mapping your SO or creating SOPs for how you get the content to where you are now in the ad hoc way, and then being able to replicate that in an automation so it happens like that
Right.
every single time.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Jesse, what is working well, and where do you feel slight friction in the business?
Um, that's a good point, or it's a good question. I would definitely say, um, I think what still works really well is our level of communication. So we have, um, my goal is like to have a very low turn rate, which we've always maintained. Even after we scaled, we've gotten really good at. We also are a lot more pickier with the type of clients that we take in. And so we don't just take on any client. We only take on clients that we know we could be successful with. And so, and we usually find that out through our sales process, kind of see what their goals are and the way they communicate and so forth. So a lot of it is just our front load of how we onboard clients is really, really good. I just think the thing that we struggle with is since we grow so fast, we have not more week that we can complete, but probably more work than I can complete, right? And so that's where the struggle is. So it's more usually most of the issues with the business are on my shoulders versus anyone else. And that's just I'm trying to do too many different things, which is taking me away from the things that I think are most important. So yeah, that's how I would answer that question.
That's obviously why you're hiring someone else sort of to step in and take over sort of the day-to-day
Yeah.
operations. What are then sort of day-to-day operations that you're looking to offload to the new person working for you?
Yeah, I think project management and communication and customer communication are the biggest things, because customer communication can be really hard for me to let go, but I know it needs to happen, right? So I'm hiring someone that's really at a high level, much higher level when it comes to customer service than I am, which is great. So I'm hiring someone that has better skills than I do in those facets, which is huge. And then same with project management. And so I handle the project management. That's probably the big killer for me is my most of my team are doing task generated work. And I need someone to manage those to make sure that they're done in a complete time. And then we got to make sure that we're not just tasking like a robot. We're tasking too, or we have our regular tasks, but we're also adjusting depending on the performance or the goals of a customer. That's something that's mostly sits on my shoulders, and that's something I'm definitely going to let go of as well. That's going to be the easier thing for me to let go of. So it's basically those two things. Yeah.
You're not alone, definitely, with founders, do you know what I mean? It's hard to let go of certain things, other things you can't wait to let go of, do you know?
Right.
But yeah, definitely, it's a good place to be at that, that is you have become sort of the bottleneck and need to, employ somebody to take them off, off your shoulders is definitely like a good place to be in, I would say.
Yeah. Thank you.
So Jesse, where do you want to be in terms of business in the next 12 to 18 months?
That's a good question. I mean, we're on schedule to double our growth in the next 12 to 18 months. And that would definitely, when it just comes to revenue wise, that's, I'd be lying to say like revenue is a big part of it. That's one, not the reason why I started an agency, but it's definitely a nice one of the, objectives for sure. Um, but yeah, I would say probably grow my team a little bit more. I don't want to have like a big agency, anything. I always want to stay lean. And but I would definitely say the other thing too is to better utilize AI and especially with the smaller tasks that can be automated. There's still plenty of room for us to use that, and we're exploring, we're trying, but we haven't just found enough of those type of tools kind of take over some of those things. I don't know it's kind of a long question or a long answer to your question, but it's definitely a mixture of those three things.
See, my last question is, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in your business, what would it be?
I would say the ability for me to go on vacation and not be in a panic the entire time of the vacation. I'm on vacation.
I like that. I like that answer. Every person gives me a completely different answer, and I
Yeah.
like that one. I think a lot of people could relate. A lot of founders and people who are in decision makers in business can definitely relate.
Yeah, for sure.
So, where can my viewers and listeners reach out to you or to your business to actually potentially work with you?
Yeah, so our website is thespearpoint.com. So we're Spearpoint Marketing. We're easily found on Google, obviously, as an SEO agent, should be found. And then I'm very active on LinkedIn. Very active. I have like 22,000 plus followers or something like that. So you can find me at Jesse McFarland. And I'm always creating content. I try to respond to all my DMs that are not just sales pitches, obviously, which are 99% of them. But yeah, so those two areas, my website and LinkedIn.
You have it, everybody. If you want to reach out to Jesse on LinkedIn, there it is. And Jesse, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. I've loved the conversation, and we'll see everybody next time. Please like, comment, subscribe, and send to a friend. See you later. Thank you.